I want a divorce. I found someone who actually makes me happy. That was the message that lit up my phone as I sat at my desk that Wednesday morning. My name's Eric Nelson. I'm 42 years old, and I work as a financial systems analyst for Orbis Union, right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The timing couldn't have been worse. I was triple-checking fraud detection algorithms for a major client when the text came through. Melissa, my wife, was supposed to be in Denver for a marketing conference. Just 3 days, she'd said. Routine stuff. My phone buzzed again. I've already moved the retirement funds into my private account. You can keep the house. I don't want it anymore. I set down my coffee and opened the banking app to take a look. Things were off already, but not in the way she thought. I typed a simple reply. I hope you're happy. 7 words. No drama. No begging. Just closure. For the next hour, I sat there monitoring live updates across 3 of my dashboard systems. Every shared account we'd ever had was routed through a central monitoring tool, something I'd personally developed years ago. That included our retirement savings, investments, emergency stash, and even the so-called personal checking account Melissa thought was hers alone. When she started moving funds around, it immediately triggered multiple fraud alert protocols. The system didn't care about relationships or intentions. It only recognized unauthorized high-volume transfers. Federal anti-fraud safeguards kicked in automatically, without me lifting a finger. By lunchtime, I was getting notifications, just not from Melissa. They came from the receiving bank. Account review initiated. All deposits frozen pending investigation. I didn't grin. Didn't pump my fist. Just dismissed the alerts and got back to work. Someone else's financial future needed my focus. But it wouldn't be long before Melissa's phone started buzzing. She'd try to check her balance and find it sitting at 0. These systems don't show mercy. Not for poor judgment. Not for betrayal. I'd seen it before, accounts locked in real time during suspicious activity reviews. Money doesn't care about love, timing, or broken promises. It obeys rules. And Melissa had just broken every last one. We'd been together for 20 years. High school sweethearts from Latrobe. Even back then, I was the numbers guy, tracking strike rates for our baseball team and managing every penny for class fundraisers. Melissa? She was the social one. Everything you'd expect from a future marketing star. Charming, outgoing, a natural at making connections. You're too obsessed with money, she used to say after I'd go over our taxes for the 3rd time. Someone has to be, I'd reply with a shrug. It worked. I kept our finances airtight while she climbed the ladder at Valerie Marketing Group. She was always traveling. Conferences in San Antonio, training in Houston, constantly shaking hands for the company. The warning signs had come gradually, like fog rolling in over still water. 6 months ago, she stopped asking about our retirement projections. 3 months back, I saw a new credit card in her name. Never mentioned it to me. 2 weeks ago, she said the guest room felt too cluttered. Nobody visits anymore, she added. My sister had noticed it at Thanksgiving. She seems off, she said. Just work pressure, I offered. But it wasn't. Melissa wasn't overwhelmed. She was preparing. While I kept refining our financial monitoring system, born out of a client's $1 million audit failure, she'd been studying it too. Trying to figure out how it worked. Where the gaps might be. Only thing is, there weren't any. Everything was connected. Every move tracked. Not out of paranoia, out of habit. Years of spotting client fraud had taught me exactly how money travels when people are trying to hide it. The night before she flew to Denver, she got oddly curious about our retirement accounts. How much do we have saved altogether? She asked as we ate dinner. About $750,000 between us, I told her. Why? She smiled. Just wondering. Looking back, that little moment made perfect sense. She was running numbers, planning her exit. I thought about calling her mom, or her best friend Olivia, or even my parents. But what would I say? Your daughter tried to drain our retirement and got flagged by a fraud system I designed? It sounded like something out of a soap opera. So instead, I made a simple dinner, watched the evening news, and checked the alerts again. Still frozen. Still under review. It would take anywhere from 5 to 7 business days before the system cleared or reversed the transfers. Melissa had gambled on moving fast, hoping to empty the accounts before I noticed, before the alarms went off. She forgot one thing. I've never missed a financial discrepancy. Not once. The call came Friday, right around 11:30 a.m. Eric, my card isn't working. I recognized that tone immediately, the one she used when a client presentation went off script. Calm on the surface, panic underneath. What's the balance? Zero, she said, almost spitting the word. How the hell is it zero? I transferred everything. That part's true, I replied. There was a pause. I heard her breathing. Then silence. What did you do? Nothing, I answered. The fraud system flagged unauthorized withdrawals from protected retirement accounts. Federal law requires them to review any large movement of funds without both account holders signing off. Another long pause. How long? 5 to 7 business days. Maybe longer if they find anything questionable. She hung up without another word. I sat in my home office, looked over the alerts again, and took a sip of coffee. Something deep inside me had changed, and I knew it wasn't going back. It wasn't rage. And it didn't feel exactly like betrayal either. It felt like something had finally clicked into place, like a fog lifting. For 20 years, I'd been the guardian of our future. I saved carefully, invested smartly, and designed systems to spot financial trouble before it could surface. And the woman I thought I was doing all that for? She tried to run off with everything we'd built. But truthfully, it wasn't the money that got to me. It was how coldly efficient her betrayal had been. One text, one set of transfers, one silent exit. Like closing a deal at the end of a quarterly report. I pulled up our investment dashboard. Luckily, she hadn't been able to complete those transfers. Our retirement accounts were still untouched. The house we bought 5 years ago for $280,000 had nearly doubled in value, worth close to 5 now. My individual stock accounts were stable. The savings bonds, all the contingency funds, still protected. Still held together by the same protocols I'd set up during her endless marketing trips. Later that Friday afternoon, I noticed she'd sent 23 text messages. I didn't read a single one. What was left to talk about? That Saturday, I met with a divorce attorney. Guy named Stephen Caldwell, straight shooter, but with empathy. His advice was clear. File now. Document everything. Her financial stunt will work in your favor. So I did. Filed first thing Monday morning. It was a clean filing. No alimony, no division of assets she hadn't already tried to tamper with. Just dissolution. The house was solely in my name. I hadn't touched our joint checking account. There was $2,500 sitting in it. Melissa could have that if she wanted. By Tuesday, the weight of reality started settling in. I wasn't out for blood. That's never been my nature. But I also wasn't some fool who'd pretend nothing happened. The same safeguards I'd built to protect Orbis Union clients had ended up protecting me too. Banking systems don't care about who said what at the altar. They care about credentials, patterns, verification. And Melissa, in her arrogance, had bypassed all of it. I clocked in as usual, ate lunch at my desk, reviewed cases of suspected fraud. The irony of it all didn't escape me. That weekend, I cleaned out the guest room she'd recently complained about. I donated her old paperbacks, boxed up photos. Not out of spite, but practicality. Our life together had ended with a ding from my phone. But the systems I built, they held steady. Funny how the best safety nets are the ones you hope never to need, and the ones that quietly catch you when the floor gives out. Then, on Monday, I found out Melissa had brought on Olivia Ortega as her attorney. I knew Olivia. Neighborhood barbecues. Always the one holding court about legal loopholes and tax hacks. Their opening legal move? Accused me of intentionally causing the account freeze. The court papers claimed I'd weaponized my financial skills to sabotage marital assets. I met with Stephen again. Same office in West Hill Legal. He read the motion and gave a low chuckle. So they're calling automated fraud alerts misconduct, he said, shaking his head. Bold move, considering no human even touched those triggers. The court scheduled a preliminary hearing 2 weeks out. Meanwhile, Melissa called the house 17 times on Sunday night. I finally picked up. Eric, she said, you have to call the bank. Tell them it was all authorized. I'm stuck. Where exactly are you? I asked. Houston, she replied after a pause. I'm with friends. Houston, not Denver. Silence. That's not where the conference was. It's complicated, she mumbled. I'll bet. Did you call the organizer? Or your manager at Valerie? Eric, don't start. I'm just asking, since you were supposedly there for work. She hung up. The next morning, my system flagged new attempts, this time, Melissa trying to open credit cards using our joint address. 3 applications. 2 days. All rejected. The fraud investigation had locked her out from both ends. No cash flow. No credit access. Travel limited to whatever bills she had in her purse. Then Olivia rang my line directly. This is escalating fast, she said. Eric, your wife has no access to money. She's welcome to the joint checking account, I replied. 3 grand. Still untouched. That's hardly sufficient, she snapped. It's the amount we always kept there for emergencies. She considered 800,000 sufficient to move without telling me. Olivia had no comeback. She hung up. Then came the surprise. On Wednesday, I got a call from Greg Anderson, Melissa's boss at Valerie. He sounded hesitant. Was Melissa actually at the Denver conference last week? He asked. I think you should ask her, I replied. She hasn't returned my messages either. We can't find any record of her registration, he said. HR's digging through the logs now. Also, her recent expense reports don't add up. A sick feeling rolled through me. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. It might have crossed into criminal territory. I really can't speak to any of that, I said carefully. I understand, Greg replied. But if she reaches out, never mind. Thanks, Eric. Not long after, the fraud team at the bank reached out to me directly. Sir, we've uncovered a pattern of suspicious transfers over the last 18 months, one rep explained, between corporate and personal accounts, originating from the same IP address. Melissa hadn't just tried to rob me. She'd been skimming from her employer too. That quiet, stable life I'd spent years building, it crumbled. Marriage, trust, even the illusion of shared values, it all felt poison now. But I hadn't pushed her down this path. I'd simply put systems in place to catch anyone who tried to get away with something they shouldn't. Thursday morning, Olivia filed an emergency motion, said Melissa needed living expenses released immediately. The judge fast-tracked a hearing for Friday. I prepared with precision, bank records, flagged alerts, transfer history. Organized. Clear. That financial training I leaned on for others? I used it for myself. Because when the facts are this clean, you don't need to argue. You just show the paper trail. That night, Melissa sent one last message. I'm sorry it came to this. I didn't reply. Sorry doesn't mean much when it follows theft. Friday came. Cloudy, cold, like the courthouse itself knew what was coming. I saw Melissa for the first time since all this began. She looked smaller, pale, her confidence stripped bare. Why? She whispered in the hallway. Why what? I asked. Why did I notice? Why did the system catch it? Or why you tried to take everything? She didn't have a single word in response. The hearing itself was over in less than 20 minutes. The judge skimmed through the fraud documentation, acknowledged that the account holds were triggered automatically, and ruled that Melissa's access to the joint checking account was enough to cover her basic needs while the investigation continued. She left the courtroom with nothing. The trap she'd laid had snapped shut, right on her. The following Monday brought an unexpected knock at my office door. It was Carl Whitman, an investigator with Eastern Financial Compliance. Mr. Nelson, he said, we've uncovered evidence of long-term fraud involving your wife and several company accounts. We could use your help. I'm not involved, I told him plainly. We know, he nodded. That's exactly why we're here. Your personal fraud detection system flagged patterns our own tools didn't catch. We sat down over coffee in the conference room, and that's when Carl laid it out. Melissa hadn't acted alone. She'd been working alongside another executive at Valerie Marketing, a man named John Henderson. Together, they'd built a tangled web of transfers that routed corporate marketing budgets into their personal accounts. For how long? I asked. Almost 2 years, Carl said. Your system caught multiple transactions that led us to audit their whole division. And the damage? Our early estimate is $2 million spread across different accounts. My stomach turned. While I'd been double-checking personal balances, Melissa had been orchestrating a corporate embezzlement scheme. This wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore. This was criminal on a whole other level. So what happens now? There's going to be a federal investigation, Carl explained. Your accounts are already being formally separated from the fraud case, but we'll need full documentation proving you weren't aware or involved. I handed over everything, every tax return, every personal financial statement, full audit logs from the systems I'd built, even my own notes showing how those systems had been designed to detect fraud, not hide it. That evening, Melissa texted again. They're saying it's federal charges. They think I stole millions. I didn't write back. What could I say that wouldn't feel like salt in a wound she carved herself? Tuesday came with more bad news. Our realtor, Todd Franklin, gave me a call. Eric, I've had some strange inquiries about your house. Someone claiming to represent both you and your wife said they want to list it for $280,000. Said you were pre-approved for a cash buyer. $280,000, the exact price we paid 5 years ago. That didn't make sense. Do you know who contacted you? I asked. John Henderson, he said. And just like that, everything clicked into place. Melissa and John weren't just embezzling. They were trying to run a full play. The plan was simple: pretend to list our house at the old price, use a front buyer to close the deal, and resell it for today's value, nearly $450,000. They'd pocket the difference and vanish. It was a complete exit strategy dressed up as a routine real estate transaction. On Wednesday, I sat down with Detective Pamela Allen from the Pittsburgh Financial Crimes Unit. She confirmed what I feared. They've been doing this with other properties too, she said. Targeting homes owned by employees at the company. Creating pressure, engineering lowball sales, flipping them for massive profit. She gave me a tired look. Your fraud monitoring system gave us the cleanest lead we've had. It cracked the case wide open. How many people? I asked. 12 families. So far. 12 hard-working people, probably like me, who trusted too much and played by the rules while others found ways around them. By Thursday, Melissa's lawyer filed for another emergency motion to access the frozen funds. The court denied it. Afterward, Olivia Ortega requested a meeting. My client needs to brace for federal indictment, she said. Stephen, my attorney, remained calm but firm. The investigation's well beyond marital assets at this point. Olivia looked pale. Shaken. We were talking about federal wire fraud, criminal conspiracy, and possibly RICO charges if prosecutors could prove it was an organized operation. Melissa wasn't just facing the loss of a marriage anymore. She was looking at real prison time, not for what she'd done to me, but for stealing from her employer and for the real estate scam. That night, I compiled every document I had. I sent everything to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Every financial report, every system log, every flag transfer, all of it. I hadn't built those tools to hurt anyone, but they uncovered something bigger than I ever imagined. Revenge wasn't the point. The truth was. And sometimes the truth doesn't just ruin relationships, it burns the whole structure down. On Thursday morning, I testified before the grand jury. I kept my voice even. No emotion. Just facts. I explained exactly how my fraud systems worked. How the alerts were triggered automatically when any transfer passed a certain threshold, usually in the early morning hours, like 3 a.m. No manual oversight. No human interference. Just clean, coded logic. The prosecutor seemed impressed by the detail. Did you ever access your wife's personal accounts without consent? They asked. No, I said. The system only monitored shared accounts. It was designed to track odd activity in our joint finances, not our private ones. I testified for 2 full hours, walking them through every notification, every security measure, how the system distinguished between normal usage and red flags. The potential sentence became clearer. The U.S. Attorney's Office laid out the charges: multiple counts of wire fraud, criminal conspiracy, embezzlement. If convicted, Melissa faced at least 20 years. After I left the courthouse, I drove straight back to Orbis Union. My team lead, Naomi Lynn, had been managing communication with the feds while I was testifying. They need everything Melissa ever accessed here, she said. So that Friday, we got to work. We combed through 3 years' worth of financial data, every login she ever made, every transaction she touched, every system she manipulated. The same discipline I'd built for clients. I now used to trace my wife's downfall. None of us saw this coming, Naomi said softly, shaking her head. No one ever does, I replied. That's why these systems exist in the first place. That weekend, for the first time in a while, brought a strange sense of peace. Federal agents had seized Melissa and John's phones, laptops, and every drive they could find. The evidence pile grew by the hour. By Sunday afternoon, Olivia called again. Eric, she said, Melissa's willing to offer information about bigger financial crimes. She's ready to name names, if they'll consider reducing the charges. That's a matter for her and the prosecutors, I told her. They may ask you to speak about the marriage. As a character witness. I paused. Tell them our marriage ended the moment she tried to clean out our retirement. Everything else is just math. On Monday, I received a formal update. The investigation into our shared finances had concluded. All retirement funds were being returned to their original accounts. The joint checking account, $2,500, would be split evenly. Half of what Melissa once insisted she needed to survive. Tuesday brought the final blow. The indictments were issued. Melissa, John Henderson, and 5 other employees from Valerie Marketing had been charged with orchestrating a full-blown financial fraud ring that spanned across Pennsylvania. The bail hearing revealed something more. Because Melissa was considered a flight risk under federal law, there would be no bond. She would stay in jail until trial. That night, I received a message from her, this time from behind bars. I never meant for it to get this far. I finally wrote back. You never meant to get caught. By Wednesday, the U.S. Attorney's Office began offering plea deals. Reduced sentencing for full cooperation. It was Melissa's move now. Take the 20 years, or testify against John and the rest of their ring. That evening, I went into her home office. I boxed up the files, marketing brochures, and printed email threads. In the bottom drawer, I found a notebook. Inside were handwritten entries, property prices, market projections, addresses, 12 of them. Our house was on that list. She'd done the same thing I had, carefully tracked details, run numbers, but she'd used that skill for theft instead of security. Thursday afternoon, we picked back up with the divorce proceedings. Her incarceration had complicated things. Your wife is ready to forfeit all marital property, her new public defender told us. In exchange, she's asking for your personal testimony about her character. I've already testified to everything I know, I said calmly. The systems, the alerts, the facts. She wants a statement about your relationship. I thought back 20 years. The woman I thought I'd known. The signs I'd missed. The double life I never saw coming. I'll speak to what I observed. No more, no less. Stephen filed the paperwork. The house was now officially mine. Retirement funds restored. Alimony waived. Her sentencing would make it irrelevant anyway. That Friday, a letter came. Handwritten. From jail. I got lost in the money, she wrote. It was so easy. John said your systems could be fooled. I believed him instead of you. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I filed the letter away, not as closure, but as evidence. An admission, not an apology. The systems I'd built were still running, unmoved by emotion. Still catching crimes, even as marriages fell apart. The federal trial lasted 17 days. I took the stand twice. The first time was strictly technical, how the financial system worked, how the alerts were configured, and how they flagged unauthorized activity based on preset rules. I explained the 3 a.m. triggers, the absence of manual oversight, the strict thresholds. The prosecutors appreciated the clarity. Did you ever access your wife's personal accounts? No, I said. The system only covered shared finances. It was built to watch for red flags in what we both owned. And when did that trust end? When the system flagged her trying to drain our retirement. The jury listened in silence. Melissa, seated just a few feet away, looked smaller with each passing day. Gone were the polished heels and designer handbags. Now she wore a beige prison uniform and the weight of everything she'd done. On day 12, John Henderson folded. He took a plea deal, 7 years in exchange for full cooperation. He laid it all out. Marketing budgets rerouted. Fake invoices. Internal manipulation. A network of executives spanning 3 states. Melissa's role? She was the coordinator. She balanced the numbers. She masked the movement. She kept the company books looking clean while the fraud ran unchecked. She'd learned that precision from watching me. But instead of guarding against crime, she used it to commit one. Then the prosecution played a recorded call. Melissa's voice came through clearly. Eric's too focused on his own systems. He won't look at my accounts. 22 years of marriage, and she had bet everything on the idea that I'd respect her privacy too much to notice. Day 17 brought the verdict. Guilty. 12 counts of wire fraud. 8 counts of conspiracy. 2 counts of embezzlement. Sentencing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. I walked straight from the courthouse to my truck. No press, no cameras, no statements. Just turned the key and drove home. My system had done exactly what it was designed to do. Flagged the fraud, built the paper trail, helped bring the truth to light. Not out of revenge. Out of structure. Out of principle. Justice doesn't require rage. Just results. 2 months after sentencing, the terms came down. Melissa got 18 years. John got 9. I sold the house for $450,000 after fees, more than enough to relocate and begin again. I stayed in Pittsburgh and kept my job at Orbis Union. And I upgraded my fraud detection systems, this time adding modules tailored specifically to corporate embezzlement. These new features could save companies millions, Naomi said during one of our team meetings. That's the point, I told her. The divorce was finalized quietly. No disputes. No appeals. Her guilty plea took the fight out of it. No one argued anymore. There was nothing left to say. I signed the final divorce papers the same week Melissa began serving her prison sentence. Stephen called to update me. Full restitution has been granted, he said. Your retirement funds are now permanently secured.